So good morning, everyone. All of you are welcome once again. We are together in our new session. So we will start our talk today with the usual Sanskrit verse. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnmudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnmeva Vasishyate. We will talk about the meaning of this verse one day, but today let us start our subject. Does God exist? This is a very profound statement because who invented God? It is the man who invented God. You know, man looked around, he saw this vast universe. He saw vast blue sky and oceans and stars. And he was wondering who created all this. He saw himself, he said, who created him? So all this curiosity, this innate curiosity came into human mind, asking him various questions, fundamental questions. And when he could not find an answer to these questions, he said, this is all done by the Almighty, by the God, by the Parmeshwar, by the Ishwar, whatever name they gave. So the concept that the God exists has been actually created by humans. I do not know anybody who has met God or who has seen God. It is not heard of, not possible, because once you actually see the God, then you become God yourself and you merge into the God. You are no longer there. Your existence disappears, and that is why nobody has really seen the God. Now I will start our conversation today with a slok from Kenopanishad. You see, Kenopanishad talks about a very, very fundamental issue. Can you see the God? He says, no, you cannot see because it is who enables you to see. Can you think of God? He says, you cannot think of him because it is he who enables you to think. And then they talk about, I'll read out this one verse from Kenopanishad, and then we will move forward. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na ved se avigyatam vijanatam vigyatam vijanatam. It's a very simple verse, but it is a language of paradox. It's a very beautiful verse, but in language of paradox. The meaning of this verse is, let me tell this in Hindi. जिसका यह मानना है कि ब्रह्म जानने में नहीं आता, वही जानता है, और जिसका यह मानना है कि ब्रह्म जानने में आता है, वो नहीं जानता. So you see, it's a very beautifully expressed verse. कि if you think that there is a God and you understand him, it means you don't know. And if you say that I do not know Brahma, I do not understand him, then you know. So the meaning of this is that nobody has really seen the God, nobody has really interacted with him. This is also true. Later on there is a small story of Yaks, which has been said in the same Kenopanishad, which basically is like this, that the gods led by Indra, they won a war against Asuraj, and they become very arrogant and proud that we won this war, while this war was won with the help of the Almighty made them win this war. So the Almighty appeared in the form of Yaksh, and then he appeared, the gods thought that let us find who this Yaksh is. So Indra sent Agni to the god, to the Yaksh, to find out what Yaksh is or who Yaksh is. So Yaksh asked Agni, that who are you? He said, I am god of Agni, I am god of fire. So what is your purpose? That I can burn anything in this universe. So the yaks put a small little, tinka in front of the Agni and said, can you burn this? Agni, with all its full force, could not burn that tinka. And then Agni felt completely helpless, went back to Indra. He says, this is what happened. Then Indra sent Vayu, the god of wind, to Yaksh. And Yaksh asked him again, who are you? He says, I am the god of wind. I can blow anything away. Then again he put the same small little tinka in front of the god of wind and said, can you blow it away? With all his force, he could not blow it away. And then he became desperate and he went back to Indra. So the story continues further, but we end it here. The meaning of this is that even the gods did not know what Brahma is. That is the first conclusion. Secondly, that everything, every power which emanates anywhere in this universe comes from Brahma. That is the meaning here. But we are first asking whether the God exists or not. So we will go into these questions later on. Now let us start whether the God exists. You see, you look at the scientific inventions, if you look at the world, the science and the entire Western world and also part of the Eastern world has been saying that this world is nothing but a combination or collection of matter. The matter came in various form and this is the nature, and this collection of matter is this world. And actually Charles Darwin gave a theory to this, stating that a particular combination of matter at some stage created a cell, and then the cells multiplied, and then various organisms were formed, including the complex organism of human being. So that is his perception of existence. Now there are many scientists in the Western world who completely support that the whole universe is nothing but an accident. And this is also supported by a very major theory called Big Bang theory. Now Big Bang theory tells you that the whole universe was a corpuscle of energy at one stage, and somehow it exploded. And that explosion continues even today, and because of that, various permutation combinations were formed, and galaxies emerged, and planets and suns and stars, they all emerged. This is how they explain. So they also call it basically an accident. So according to this view, the whole world, the whole universe is merely an accident. It's an anarchic thing. Anything can happen here anytime because there's no order here. That is what they mean to say. But the same people who claim that there's no order, they are pronouncing their own order. Like the Big Bang theory people, they are pronouncing their own order, that this is how this happened after the Big Bang. They are coming with an order. Charles Darwin, who says that it is matter of, it's a collection of matter, he also comes with his own order, that how the cell was created and how it multiplied and how organism, single cell organism and then multi-cell organism came into being. So on the one hand, they are pronouncing that the world is anarchic, accidental. On the other hand, the same very people are coming out with theory of some order to justify their own concept of anarchy. Now this is contradiction. This is again, cannot be understood properly in rational way. But that is how it actually has been explained by the science till today. And that is the reason they are trying to break the atom. They broke the matter into atom, and they broke the atom into three parts, and they are trying to find what is contained in the atom, where this universe came from. What is that particle in the atom from which the whole universe is made of? That is what they are trying to find out. So what I wanted to tell you in this context is that the entire concept that the God exists, whether it is a religious concept or a scientific concept or an individual concept, is actually man-made. And this has been very clearly stated in Upanishads in many places that uh, the God cannot be seen, we cannot interact with him, and therefore, you cannot justify the existence of God in that sense, in the sense of personal equation. But then there are further explanations. We will go into those explanations slowly, slowly. Now there is a scientist called Eddington. He very clearly said that this universe is nothing but collection of matter. Its collection of matter is universe, and then there was some combination formed somewhere. Because of that, the life came into being, and then the things moved on. So all this has been a pronounced theory of science that this universe is nothing but a collection of matter. And the combination permutations of this matter led to evolution of a cell, which ultimately led to a complex systems or variety of systems which continue in this universe. Now this is a theory of anarchy, as I mentioned to you, that everything happened accidentally, but the same scientists are telling you a theory beyond that, which is not, which is trying to set an order. On the one hand, they start with anarchy and they are trying to set an order. It means the human consciousness cannot accept anarchy in total. Now let us look at the other side. Look at this whole universe. We look at it with ourselves, with our own eyes. Don't look at it from the eye of a scientist. Look with your pure, simple eyes. You see the stars all around. You see the sky, vast sky. You see the sun rising systematically every morning, setting systematically every evening, the moon appearing in its phases systematically. The rains start, how the rains start, the water goes up with the heat and forms cloud, and then the rains start. There's a rainy season which comes in. There is the change of seasons one after another. There is order everywhere. Do you see any anarchy there? If the sun decides not to get up for 2 days, what will happen? The whole world will be under threat of extinction. So when you observe this universe yourself, there is an order. You look at your own system, own body. The whole body has so many organs, and each organ works in a cohesive manner. Each cell of the body works in a cohesive manner, creating a system which functions properly. And what the scientists say today, that if some cells which are called rebel cells, if they do not cooperate with the system, they are called cancerous and they have to be taken out. So you see, the body maintains its temperature, it maintains a circulatory system inside, how the food digests, how the flesh is formed and bones are formed and your eyes are formed and they are able to see. All this evolution happens in a very systematic way. There is a system there, there is an order there. You look at a plant, you put a seed, it grows slowly, slowly, it becomes bigger, comes with branches, leaves, it gives fruits, and there is an order there. Then finally it shades, it leaves, it branches fall down, it dies and goes back to the earth. So actually when you observe this universe, you see an order. Now the question arises, how this order came from? Who gave this order? How this order comes from? And this is the answer, that there is something which maintains this order. And that is what the Vedic scientists pronounce as Almighty, as Brahm, as God, as Parmeshwar, as Ishwar, whatever name you give. That this order is the order which runs this universe, and because of that, sorry, let me put off my phone because it's ringing. Because of this order, we recognize that there is a force behind this universe which runs it, which sets this order. And that is one of the reasons to believe that there is a force which runs, and that is the Almighty, that is the God. That force is invisible, this force is intangible, this force is insensible, this force is unintelligible. This is a secret force which governs everything but remains completely hidden. And that is what is called Brahm or God or Ishwar, whatever name you give. Then this is one part. The second thing, whenever we see in this universe, we see a flow of things. Things are moving in a flow, like a river. Like we are born, we grow, we become old, we die, and then the children are born, they follow the same system, and the life goes on, but the individual dies. So there is a flow, there is a system which works there. The same thing happens to the animal regime, the same thing is happening. The same thing is happening. Manorama ji, kindly put off your microphone. The same thing is happening to all the species of life. This is how the flow of life moves. The life remains, but the individuals don't remain. This is a flow. And that is why there is a word called Jagat. We use this word Jagat. It has a very precise scientific meaning. Gat means gati. Jagat means जन्म से जो गति चल रही है, जन्म से गति चलती है, फिर एंड हो जाता है, and then again the new. So this gati continues. This flow of this universe continues. The individual players disappear. They come back, they go, they come back, they go. But the flow continues. So that is another reason. Even in animal species, the children are born and then they continue this world. The older disappear, they are perhaps reborn later on. So this flow continues. So that is the second reason to believe that somebody is maintaining this flow of life. And that is why there is a God, we call him God, we call him Brahm, whatever name we give, we believe in that. Then the third word, we have a word in Hindi, in Sanskrit called Sansar. This is again a very profound word. Sansar means that everything goes in a circle, vartulakar. Everything moves in a circle. So the word Jagat and Sansar, which are two Sanskrit words to signify this universe, are very, very scientifically designed. Now Sansar means everything moves in cycles, and which we see now in our presence. A tree grows from the seed, and then ultimately branches and fruits come, and then the fruits give a seed, and then with that seed a new tree comes, and that previous tree ultimately disappears, and this cycle continues. This cycle continues with us as well, the human beings. We give birth to our children, they take our place, and we become old and we die. So this cycle continues. So the two things, the flow of the world continues, the cycle of the world continues, and there is an order in this world. Everything moves in an orderly fashion. So these are the three important things. There is a fourth important thing which is also very important. That everything in this universe is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. Look at a tree sitting outside. His roots, the tree's roots are in the earth. It's taking all its nutrition from the earth. It's connected to the earth. Earth is connecting to the Akash Ganga, to the entire galaxy. The galaxy is connecting to the whole universe. Yeah? So you see the tree is connecting to the whole universe. Look at ourselves. We are sitting on this earth. The earth is connected to the all the planets, in a system of motion. There are motions of different varieties, which connect this earth to the entire planetary system, then to the sun, and then to the galaxy, and then to the whole universe. Not only that, what we eat comes from this universe. All the vegetation comes how? They come from the earth. They use air, they use sunlight, they use the space available for them to grow, and we eat that, and then we sustain our lives. So we are interconnected. Everything in this universe is interconnected. Nobody is dependent, independent. Everybody is dependent on everything else. So these are the four fundamental principles which make you think that there is some order in this universe. Firstly, everything has an order. Secondly, everything has a flow of its own. Thirdly, everything has a cycle of its own. Fourthly, all these flows, cycles, and order, they are all interconnected. They are woven into each other, and that is what sets this universe in a perfect harmony. And how this harmony comes? That is why we tell that this harmony has comes from a invisible force, a force which we cannot see, the force which we cannot even think, the force we cannot hear, the force we cannot touch. That force makes this universe. Everything comes from that force. And that force has defined as Brahman in Upanishads. In Christianity, there is a difference there. I have used the word God with a purpose. Does God exist? There is a purpose there. God means it comes from the root good. Hello? It comes from the root good. And Christianity believes that the God only does good things, and all the destruction, all the deaths and other things that happen, they do not happen because of God. They happen because of Satan. There's another force called Satan, which does all the bad, destructive things. But in our Vedic writings, in Hinduism, in Jainism, in Sikhism, all the Indic religions, we clearly believe that the Almighty Brahm is responsible for everything that happens. We may call it good, we may call it bad, that is our perception. But these are just the two sides of the coin that happen in this world. Whether it is day or night, whether it is darkness or light, it is all coming from the same single force which is governing this universe. So that is why the word God has been invented in Christianity, because they only say that this is only good things he does, not the bad things. So they classify them good or bad. We do not. In our philosophy, if you go deep down, death is not bad. Death is part of life. It's the flow of life. It's the cycle of life. It's the order of life. There's nothing bad about it. And the destruction comes. The destruction is nothing bad. We call the Lord Shiva as the god of destruction. The destruction is essential for recreation. Without destruction, you cannot recreate. And that is why we consider that all this flow, all these cycles and orders, whether we consider them good or bad, they all emanate from one single source, and that source is defined as Brahma or Almighty. So now we started with Kenopanishad, and I would like to conclude this with Bhagavad Gita. Now, in Gita also, Krishna has said that the power of the Almighty, the power of the Brahma or mere ko. He has used the word mera because he is speaking as Brahma in that sense. So he says that मेरे जन्मने मरने और मेरे एग्जिस्टेंस को गॉड भी नहीं जानते हैं, देवता लोग भी नहीं जानते हैं. So devta means all the superpowers which are having higher consciousness than human beings. Even they do not recognize, they do not understand me. I'm beyond that. And that is why we cannot understand the Almighty with our sense organs. That we must be clear about. Those who claim that I can see God or I can hear God or I can touch God or I can interact God, I think physically that is not possible. Maybe when you raise your consciousness and you get completely merged into the Almighty, you can do all that. That is possible, but then you cannot say that I did all that. No. Then you are not no longer I. Your I completely is demolished by that time. So an individual cannot understand the Almighty with his sense organs. This is the way the whole universe is designed. But given the order here, given the cycle here, given the flow of life here, given a variety of miracles that are happening, we presume and we have to accept that there is a force which governs this universe. Now, how do we know that force? I will go into detail in the next session, but I will talk briefly about this today. How do we know? Knowing that force is, it's a, you have to go into what we call non-manifest. You have to go into avyakt. The things which have not been expressed physically, you have to go back there. Like if you want to understand a tree, you have to go to the root, where the tree stands and from where all its nourishment comes. Similarly, if we want to know our origin, we have to go back to that, invisible, intangible, insensible, unintelligible force from where we originate and where we come from and where we ultimately disappear. So we will explain this in somewhat greater detail with the help of Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita in the next session, that how we understand God. Can we understand Him? Can we see Him? Can we hear Him? What are the methods how we can move about it? So that would be a subject of a new talk. But today I would like to reiterate the following. Firstly, that universe is not a collection of matter, as it has been thought by many scientists and Western writers. It is not a collection of matter. It is absolutely an organized system where there is an order everywhere. There is an order right from the universal level to the stars and to the galaxies and to the solar systems and to the planets and to the earth and to the all the creatures on the earth and human being and trees and plants. Everything has its own order, and that order in a meticulous way moves forward. That is one part. Secondly, it is not a collection which has been put together by somebody. That is also very important to understand. Like you put a railway engine or a car engine together, you put hundreds of small little instruments together and a car engine is formed. It is not like that. Universe is not formed in that way. It evolves on its own. Nobody has put your eyes and your ears and your hand and say that now we are fixing your nose and now I'm fixing your eyes and now I'm fixing your legs. It evolves from inside. Everything evolves. A plant evolves, a human being evolves, even a mountain evolves from inside. Everything evolves from inside. So there's a force inside you which is the source of life, which is the source of evolution of whatever evolves in this universe. So we have to understand that force, what that force is. Then, as I mentioned, there are two things. There's a flow, continuous flow. Things keep happening. Individuals disappear, but the system exists. As we say, in management we say that the people die, but the institutions survive. In the same way, here the individuals die, but the universe continues with its flow all the time. The individuals die, the life survives. And similarly, everything is cyclical, everything is harmonious, everything is interconnected. There is nothing in this universe which is not interconnected. The whole universe is one whole system, like the body. The body is a whole system. It, you know, you cannot take out organ and say now I can take this out and I can refix it. Somebody can take out your heart and say now I can refix it. Somebody can take out your lungs and say I can refix and organize your body. It's not possible. It's an interconnected system. As soon as you take out one, the whole system is completely disrupted and you can face straight away death. That is how it works. So it's a harmonious system. Similarly, the universe is also a harmonious system. If we disturb that harmony, which the human being is doing right now, then it will, end up in very disastrous results. And that is why we call the problems of climate change and global warming and all that. They arise because of the disturbance we are causing to the harmony of this universe. So now it is clear that, of course, there is a power which governs this universe, which sets this order, which can maintain this harmony, which maintains all these systems. But where that power is, how do we understand that power? How can we, intellectually understand that? Can we understand that? Uh, the secret of the hidden part where this exists, we have to find that hidden part where it exists, and that we will discuss in our next session. So I would like to thank you once again for listening to me today. If you have any questions on this, we will deal certainly with those questions. But if you have questions concerning the next part, keep them ready for the next session. Thank you very much.